Usually when we sit down to dig into royal history, we're blowing dust off parchments from the 16th century.
Right, or trying to decode whispers from the Victorian era.
Exactly. It feels safe because it's so far removed.
Hmm.
But the source material we have today, it's a whole different ballgame.
Oh, absolutely.
It's contemporary, it is raw, and honestly, it reads like the third act of a psychological thriller.
It really does. But I think calling it a thriller it almost undersells the historical weight of it.
How so?
We aren't just analyzing a story, we're looking at a specific set of documents, leaked palace memos, legal briefs, and of course, the scams of the letter itself.
Cool letter.
Yeah. All of it chronicles the events of October 2025. This is the moment the British monarchy looked in the mirror and didn't recognize itself.
So let's set the scene for you, because looking at this timeline, everything converges on one specific night.
A crisp autumn night, October 2025, Windsor Castle.
The East Drawing Room, to be precise.
Which, if you know Windsor, is a space that practically breathes judgment. You have the flickering candlelight, all the ancestral portraits looking down. It's a room designed to make you feel small.
And the cast of characters gathered there is about as high stakes as you can get.
Mm-hmm.
You have King Charles III, 76 years old.
Yeah.
Prince William the Heir at 43.
And Prince Harry, 41.
And before we even get into what happened, we have to acknowledge the context here. These three men hadn't been in a room together privately without lawyers for years.
The tension must have been just suffocating.
Suffocating is the right word.
But what makes this so fascinating is the catalyst. It wasn't a state funeral.
Right.
It wasn't a coronation, not a crisis meeting called by the prime minister. It was an envelope.
Just a single yellowed envelope, dated August 1996.
Written by Princess Diana exactly 1 year before her death.
And the handwriting in the scans is unmistakable. It's that looping cursive, but it's the instruction on the front that really stopped me in my tracks.
For my sons only when it's time.
When it's time.
That phrase is doing a massive amount of heavy lifting. It suggests she knew the contents were a time bomb.
She wasn't writing a sentimental birthday card.
No, she was writing a confession that she knew they couldn't handle in the 90s. She was banking on a future maturity that, frankly, was not guaranteed.
So that's our mission for this deep dive. We're going to unpack what was in that letter, obviously.
Of course.
But more importantly, I want to look at how this one piece of paper forced the monarchy to choose between its two foundational pillars, biology and love.
Because usually for royals, biology is the undefeated champion.
It has to be.
It has to be. The entire system, the succession, it's all built on blood. You take blood out of the equation, the whole structure gets very, very shaky.
So let's go back into that room. The source material describes the atmosphere as just heavy.
Look at the body language in the leaked witness accounts.
Which, how do we even have those? But that's a side note.
Right. But it describes Charles as trembling. William is rigid, jaw clenched.
And Harry is just staring at the fire, completely frozen.
It's a tableau of trauma. You have to remember, for William and Harry, their mother is frozen in time.
This saint who died young.
Exactly. So to have her voice suddenly re-enter the room, speaking in the present tense, it just changes the physics of the relationship. It turns a memory into an active participant.
Charles opens the envelope, the paper crackles in the silence, and the first line Diana writes is, "They deserve the truth, even if it hurts."
Wow. That immediately signals this isn't going to be a warm hug from the past. This is an unburdening.
She goes on to describe her mental state between 1987 and 1992. She calls herself a ghost in her own marriage.
That imagery is so haunting.
It is. She talks about crying alone, feeling unheard by the world but wounded by it. It's incredibly vulnerable.
And that context is so crucial for what comes next. She's not just venting, she's explaining why she sought comfort elsewhere.
Right.
She writes that her sons were her reason to survive, but that she was lonely. She paints a picture of a woman clinging to motherhood as her only anchor. And
she pivots.
She pivots to the topic that has dogged Harry since he was a toddler.
The James Hewitt rumors. She tackles it head on.
She does. Now, we should probably pause here and just clarify the history, because the timeline details are what make this so explosive.
Good idea.
For decades, tabloids speculated that Major James Hewitt, Diana's lover, was Harry's real father. The official palace line,
And the timeline supported by most biographers.
right, was that Harry was born in 1984, and Diana didn't even meet Hewitt until 1986.
So biologically, it never made sense.
Eh.
The math didn't add up.
Theoretically, no. The dates were the shield the palace always used. But rumors don't care about dates.
They care about visuals.
Exactly. And in this letter, Diana addresses it, but here is the curveball. She doesn't offer a DNA test.
No?
She doesn't give a legal defense or recite the calendar.
She gets philosophical. She writes, I don't know what's true in the body, but I know the soul. And she explicitly tells them that Charles is their father spiritually.
That distinction is fascinating, isn't it? True in the body versus true in the soul.
What is she even saying there?
She's introducing ambiguity where there shouldn't be any. She's essentially telling them, I believe Charles is your father, but I can't offer you scientific certainty.
Which, to be honest, sounds like a nightmare thing to tell your children 30 years later. Why introduce that doubt?
That is the million-dollar question. It implies that maybe her relationship with Hewitt started earlier than we thought, or maybe there were others. But I think her intent was deeper. She was trying to redefine what family meant to them. She writes that the technicalities of biology matter less than the love they were raised with.
But dropping that kind of ambiguity into a room full of hurt men?
It's dangerous.
Yeah.
Very dangerous.
Well, and looking at the reaction, it seems like the danger wasn't actually the letter itself.
No.
It was Charles. This is the part of the source material that just shocked me. You'd expect the king to be defensive.
To shut it down, call the lawyers, burn the letter.
But he doesn't.
And this is the pivot point of the entire deep dive. The letter breaks the silence, but Charles is the one who steps into the void. He reveals a secret he'd kept since 1995.
This part gave me chills. He tells William and Harry that in 1995, during an argument at Balmoral, Diana looked him in the eye and said she wasn't sure if Harry was his.
Just stop and think about the weight of that. For 30 years, Charles, a man whose entire existence relies on legitimate succession, carried the doubt that his second son might not be his.
And he never said a word. He raised him. He grieved with him.
The sources say the heir just left the room. William goes blank. Harry just blinks. But then Charles admits something even wilder.
He never asked for a paternity test?
Never. He says, I made a decision that night that I didn't need to know because I already did.
Wow.
This is the moment Charles drops the mask of duty. We often see Charles as this rigid, protocol-obsessed figure, but here he's making a choice that is fundamentally anti-monarchy.
How so?
Because the monarchy requires biological certainty. By choosing not to test, he was prioritizing his role as a father over his duty to the crown. He tells Harry, you are my son. That's never changed. Not for a day.
He's arguing fatherhood is a verb. It's what you do, not a biological noun.
He literally says it. Fatherhood isn't about blood. It's about choice.
Which is a beautiful modern sentiment, but emotional truths don't always land softly.
Oh, absolutely not. And this is where we see the spare dynamic just crash back into reality.
Talk about the psychology of Prince Harry here.
Well, his reaction is intense. He doesn't scream. He doesn't throw anything.
It just implodes.
It's a silent collapse. He asked one question. She never said this to me. Why now? And then he walks out.
The narrative follows him, walking through the corridors of Windsor, and the imagery is stark. He's passing these massive paintings of George III, Elizabeth II.
It's a crisis of identity in its purest form. Think about the narrative Harry has struggled with his whole life. He's the spare, the outsider.
The one who didn't quite fit.
And now, the man who raised him has confirmed there was always a question mark.
It confirms his worst fear, doesn't it? That maybe he really doesn't belong.
Precisely. Even if Charles says it doesn't matter, to Harry, in that moment, it validates every whisper, every tabloid headline. He's thinking, am I a prince of the realm, or am I the result of a mistake?
Total destabilization.
Meanwhile, back in the room, William reacts completely differently. Harry is in flight mode. William goes into fight mode.
William is the protector. That's been his role since 1997.
He's spent his life trying to keep the family image intact, to keep the chaos of their mother's life from swallowing them again. To him, Charles keeping this secret wasn't love. It was a betrayal.
He reportedly stands over the king and says, "You've destroyed something sacred."
He feels that by bringing this up now, Charles has shattered the fragile peace they had finally started to build. William deals in certainty. He's the heir, this confession. It's pure chaos. And William hates chaos.
So you have this triad of pain. Harry alone, William furious, and Charles in the wreckage of his confession. Reading this part, it felt like the end of the House of Windsor.
It feels irreparable. But this is where the story takes a turn you couldn't write in fiction, because the letter wasn't finished.
The secret second page.
Right. William, in his anger, notices a second, thinner sheet of paper tucked behind the first. And look at the date, March 1996.
5 months before she died. Significantly later than the first page.
Exactly. The first page was written in despair. The second page, it's written in peace.
The tone is completely different.
She reframes the entire narrative about James Hewitt. She doesn't describe it as a sordid affair. She calls him a gentle moment in a storm I couldn't escape.
It humanizes her so much. She admits she was lost, she was human.
But then she circles back to the paternity issue, and she writes the line that effectively saves the family.
Truth is never betrayal.
Truth is never betrayal. That's a bold statement for a family that survives on secrets. Usually for them, truth is betrayal.
It is.
But here, it's the thesis statement. Diana wasn't trying to blow up the monarchy. She was trying to release her sons from the burden of the unknown.
She knew the whispers would chase them forever unless the truth, however messy, was brought into the light.
She was giving them permission to stop pretending.
And William sees this. The sources say his demeanor changes instantly. He realizes Diana didn't want to destroy them.
No, she wanted them to know the full story so they wouldn't be controlled by it. Secrets only have power when they're hidden.
So William realizes his anger at Charles was misplaced.
And that prompts him to do something he hasn't done in a long time. He stops being the heir and starts being a brother. He goes to find Harry.
Which leads to the reunion in the garden. But before we get there, we have to talk about the leak.
Of course. Nothing stays private forever.
The timeline jumps to October 28th, 2025. The letter leaks.
And the media goes absolutely wild. Diana's letter reveals paternity doubt. It's the headline of the century.
But this is where we need to put on our constitutional law hats for a second.
Because this isn't just a tabloid scandal. It's a potential constitutional crisis.
Right, explain that. Why does a personal letter threaten the government?
We aren't in the Middle Ages, but the laws are. It goes back to the Act of Settlement of 1701. The crown is strictly hereditary. It passes to the heirs of the body.
Heirs of the body. That's the legal term.
It is. If Harry is not the biological son of Charles, he technically falls out of the line of succession.
So legally, if he's not Charles's son, he's not a prince. He loses everything.
Legally, it's murky. But if the king himself admitted doubt, and the mother admitted doubt, Westminster went into panic mode.
Emergency meetings about forcing DNA tests.
Exactly. Stripping titles to protect the integrity of the crown. The legal purists argued that the integrity of the bloodline is the only thing that matters.
But the royal family just didn't engage.
They refused, and that was the masterstroke. Charles, William, and Harry presented a united front. They basically said, this is our family matter, and the law can catch up to reality.
And the public was with them. The polling data is shocking. 62% of the public supported Diana's honesty and Charles's choice.
That is a massive sociological shift. 20 years ago, this might have toppled the monarchy. But in 2025, the public valued love over blood.
They saw a father, not just a king.
They saw his choice to raise Harry, despite the doubt, as noble, not weak. It's like the public was tired of the stiff upper lip perfection. They preferred the messy human reality.
Which brings us to the resolution, November 15th, 2025. The reunion.
Not a televised special? No Oprah interview?
No, just private, in the palace gardens. Just Charles, William, and Harry. And later, just the two brothers.
And we have dialogue from that night, likely from a security detail log. It really seals the whole episode for me.
William says to Harry, she wanted us to know, but not to lose each other over it.
And Harry's reply, then we won't.
Then we won't. 3 words. But they undo decades of estrangement.
It's the fulfillment of Diana's last wish. Her truth wasn't just the revelation of facts. Her truth was that their bond had to be stronger than the institution.
She wanted them to survive the monarchy, not just serve it.
And by accepting the messy truth, they actually became stronger. The thing that was supposed to destroy them ended up being the thing that proved their loyalty to each other.
It redefined the monarchy for the 21st century. It shifted the foundation from divine right and pure blood to chosen family and resilience.
It's a powerful ending. From the storm in that drawing room to peace in the garden.
A peace won by honesty.
And I think that's the big takeaway. The fear of the truth is almost always worse than the truth itself. Charles lived in fear for 30 years. Harry lived in the shadow of rumors. Once the light was shone on it, the monster shrank.
It makes you think about these ancient institutions. We think of them as unshakable, but they're just people.
They are. And if the British monarchy, the most traditional, blood-obsessed institution on the planet, can survive an admission that love matters more than biology, well, that changes the game.
It really does. It suggests the future isn't in rigid adherence to the past, but in the ability to evolve emotionally.
If they can embrace the messy complexity of being human, they might just survive another 1,000 years. If they had stayed rigid, buried the letter, That might have been the end.
So as we wrap up, we want to leave you with a thought. This story is really about what we define as real.
Right. Is a father the person who shares your DNA or the person who waits up for you when you're sick?
Is a brother the person listed in the birth register, or the person who comes to find you in the garden when your world falls apart?
Diana's letter forced her family to answer those questions.
And maybe it's a prompt for all of us to think about what truth means in our own family legacies. Are there conversations you're avoiding that might actually heal things?
Truth is never betrayal. It's a risky philosophy, but in this case, it was the only way forward.
A huge thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the archives of the future. It's a fascinating story.
And it reminds us that history isn't just dates and battles, it's people making choices.
And sometimes, the bravest choice is just to open the envelope. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you on the next deep dive.